Believe it or not, the world is shifting right before our eyes. The once unshakable alliance between Europe and America is unraveling, and the latest developments have sent shockwaves across the globe. Germany just made a chilling statement. The answer to America first is Europe unites. But what does this really mean for the future of global power dynamics? And why have European leaders rushed into an emergency meeting in Paris to discuss Trump and Putin? Well, let's break it all down. For decades, the US and Europe have been key allies, often referred to as the backbone of the Western world. They've navigated wars, economic crises, and global trade together. But over the past few years, cracks have started to form. Tensions between the US and the EU have been escalating, with shifting political landscapes, trade disputes, and differing foreign policy objectives. Now, the recent statement by Germany is fueling speculation about the future of this alliance and Europe's next steps in a world where America's dominance is increasingly questioned. Before diving into the specifics, let's look at how this all unfolded. European leaders recently called for an emergency summit in Paris, a move that has left many wondering why the sudden urgency. Well, sources suggest that the growing influence of Trump and Putin is at the center of this emergency meeting. But what triggered this gathering, and what do they intend to discuss? Let's take a closer look at what led up to this. Just before the summit, something major occurred. J.D. Vance, a key Trump ally, made headlines with his bombshell, "It's not us, it's you" speech, further distancing America from Europe. But the plot thickens when we learn that, prior to Vance's comments, Trump had a private 90-minute phone call with Vladimir Putin. The topic? A potential peace deal regarding the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, before even speaking to Ukraine's President Zelensky. Now the fact that Trump and Putin had such a significant conversation without involving the European leaders is raising alarms. Historically, Europe has been deeply involved in discussions about Ukraine's future, especially as the war has directly impacted EU countries. Yet here was Trump talking to Putin behind closed doors, making decisions that would affect the whole of Europe without even consulting them. This unprecedented move has triggered a wave of panic across the continent. Why? Because the European Union, especially countries like Poland, the Baltics, and Ukraine, is now worried that their future is being shaped by an agreement they weren't even a part of. Trump and Putin's growing bond has caused concern among European leaders, especially since Trump's stance on Ukraine has been controversial. In the past, Trump has suggested that Ukraine may never regain the land currently occupied by Russia. For many European leaders, this is a terrifying thought. It questions not only the sovereignty of Ukraine, but also the future of NATO, an alliance that has long been the pillar of European security. If Trump moves forward with a peace deal that doesn't involve Europe's input, it could mark the beginning of a fundamental shift in global power. But it's not just the prospect of peace talks without Europe that's unsettling. It's the broader implications for the global order. What does it mean for NATO if the US and Russia come to an agreement without consulting European members? What happens if America and Russia align on issues that undermine the interests of Europe? The foundation of the West as we know it could be in jeopardy. Germany's statement that Europe unites in response to America first hints at a dramatic shift. What does this mean for Europe's role on the global stage? Is Europe ready to step up and assert its own influence, separate from the US? The growing talk of European unity is stirring both hope and fear. Some believe this is the beginning of a more independent Europe, one that can stand against America's global hegemony. Others fear that it might be a sign of Europe's disintegration, a failure to unite in the face of rising global tensions. Europe's dilemma is also intertwined with the question of whether they can truly unite on a common front. Europe is a diverse continent with varying interests, from economic powerhouses like Germany and France to smaller nations with different security concerns. Will they be able to overcome their differences and form a strong, united front against America? Or will divisions within the EU prevent them from taking a stand on the world stage? What happens if Trump and Putin form an even closer alliance in the future, leaving Europe to pick up the pieces? Could this be the beginning of a new era of US-Russia relations, one that excludes Europe entirely? Looking forward, what would a world look like if Europe and America went their separate ways? For one, Europe could become more self-reliant, strengthening its own defense capabilities and foreign policy independence. But could Europe handle the geopolitical pressure without America's backing? Would this lead to the formation of new alliances, perhaps with China? Or would it result in fragmentation with different European countries pursuing their own national interests? The potential consequences of a split between Europe and America are profound. A divided West could create new power structures on the global stage. We could witness the rise of a multipolar world where regional powers like China, India, and Russia play an even more significant role. The era of American dominance could give way to a more fragmented global order, one where Europe finds itself in a more competitive position, vying for influence with other global powers. The stakes are high. The next few months could determine the future of Western alliances, the balance of power, and even the very concept of democracy as we know it. The global order is shifting, and Europe's response will shape the course of history. So what do you think? Is this the end of the US-Europe alliance as we know it? Will Europe unite and stand strong against America? Or will internal divisions tear it apart? Will Trump's actions lead to a more fragmented world? Or could they spark the rise of a new European superpower? The world is watching closely, and only time will tell how this dramatic geopolitical shift unfolds. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into global politics. Stay informed, stay aware, and we'll keep you updated as this situation unfolds.